Welcome to the Wolverine Digest podcast, the best spot for objective and authentic coverage of Michigan athletics. If you want open dialogue, honest opinions, and in-depth coverage of the maize and blue, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's your host, Brandon Brown, joined as always by Chris Breiler.
Well, we're back.
We are back.
Little 5-hour hiatus there to let Chris get over to the stadium, shoot some photos, watch a game. I mean, 59-0.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot.
I was going to start by saying go blue.
Did we not start with that?
I forgot to say it right off.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
UConn's really bad. You heard, Chris, I know you weren't watching the broadcast, but they talked all day long about the injuries that UConn's dealing with.
Yeah.
And a program like that can't do that. They just can't survive. Second and third string running back being out, starting quarterback being out, linemen being out, linebackers being dinged. I mean, that's just not a good team. Not very talented, no speed, just had no answers from Michigan. I mean, it was like one of those games that Michigan's been playing for a couple seasons now, like on steroids. Like nothing really big. On the punt return was a big deal. That was great to see AJ Henning. But nothing like that crazy happened, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Oh my god, dude! It's 52-0." Like, and they finished 59-0. Just kind of one of those games, man. Felt a little sleepy. Again, I'm here laying on my couch at home, like quarantining in the basement. Never got too amped for it. I mean, I don't know.
It might have felt sleepy from the couch, but it felt hot as shit down on the field once again. I mean, I know fall weather is coming, so I'm not going to complain. But, man, when that sun is kicking down there in the bowl, it's like sitting in an oven, dude. I take on the consistency of crispy bacon. That's pretty much what I turn into. I
love it. Well, yeah, nowhere to go. You can't hide from it down there.
No, you can't. You can't hide from it. You can try, but you can't. So listen, I can see a lot of people already bringing it up in the comments, and we might as well just bring it up. I know that it's hard to complain when what was it, 59?
59.
It's hard to find anything to complain about, but I do see in the comments section that people are showing a bit of concern for the offensive line. Now, I know that Blake Corum had 5 touchdowns. I know that that's the record, but it seems to be that there's a bit of a concern that the offensive line just isn't meshing the way that some people thought. Did you get that sense watching it on TV? Because like I said, it's hard for me to gauge that from being down on the field. But it does seem like the running game feels like it's kind of running in mud. And it's hard to say that after a 5-touchdown afternoon from Blake Corum.
Yeah, I mean, he had 3 1-yard touchdown runs. Obviously, that's gonna ding the average a little bit, but he still averaged 6 yards a carry. But overall, the team only averaged 4.5 yards per carry. That's not dominant. I don't know, man. I feel like Michigan's, kind of playing down to their competition a little bit, but they didn't do that last year. Washington, that's a Power 5 team. I know they ended up not being very good, but they pounded them into submission. The other 2 games in the non-conference, same deal, 300 and 400-yard rushing performances, and we haven't seen anything near that in these first 3 this year. So I don't think I'd call it like a concern because, yes, 59-0.
Okay.
Everything else working almost to perfection. I mean, I'm going to get into that, several of the points that I made here. Starting with Blake Corum, we'll start it right there. 5 touchdowns for number 2. And, I mean, dude, again, I said it last week about J.J. McCarthy. I'm not sure Blake Corum broke a sweat today. I mean, 3 1-yard jump-ins, a 20-yarder, an 11-yarder, and he just looked like, yeah, give me the ball, score, we'll go have a seat, drink some Gatorade. Like, it just felt real easy. And, I mean, he's not doing that without the offensive line getting a significant push and opening some stuff up for him. So, I mean, we didn't see that 50-yard touchdown run that we talked about, and we didn't see a 100-yard rusher again. But
you know what else we didn't see?
Michigan put up 59 points, dude, and did not have a passing touchdown. So, clearly some stuff was working on the ground.
So, they had some stuff working on the ground, but I'm looking down at the stat sheet, and again, it's hard to gauge it from the sideline. But I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different guys with a reception today. and Andrell Anthony is not on that list. Not a single reception. And I was watching today. He's, you've got Ronnie Bell, you got Cornelius Johnson, you got Roman Wilson. There's your top 3 receivers. And then typically Andrell will shuffle in and out. And then maybe I got it wrong. I thought he was going to be a focal point of the offense. I thought we saw last year that he had, just that extra speed if you could get him the ball in the open field. And I mean, dude, through 3 games, he has 1 reception for 5 yards. And again, I know it's not Big Ten play. I know they're not in a situation where they got to go out and look for points. But man, I mean, I don't, I'm not sure. I guess maybe I got it wrong on Andrell Anthony. Maybe there's still some things there that he's still trying to work through. I'm not sure what it was, but I'm just shocked that he hasn't been quite a bit more involved in the offense, to be honest.
Yeah, again, I mean, finding things to complain about on a 59-0.
Now,
listen,
I will say this:
here's why
Ronnie Bell 7 receptions.
Here's why this is relevant. I mean, people are going to say, "Come on, man, they won 59-0. What are you complaining about?" Be willing to bet Andrell Anthony's not super pumped about his first 3 games of his sophomore season. I mean, he's got a catch for 5. He's out there playing a decent amount. I'll look at the snap count tomorrow. I bet it's not a ton of snaps. He's been down the list in that regard too. So yeah, I mean, whatever. It's 59-0. The defense pitches a shutout. Blake Corum scores 5 touchdowns. JJ McCarthy was extremely efficient. He never really had to push the ball down the field, but he finishes 15 of 18 for 214 yards. He also carried the ball a couple times. He took a sack, so he actually only finished with 7 yards rushing, but he had a 14-yard run, picked up a first down, on target, on time with most of his throws, pretty much did what he's done the first 2 times we've seen him this year. He was efficient. Ball was thrown with zip, just didn't put it in the end zone through the air. So, I mean, I don't know. Not a lot to say about JJ in terms of like, oh, my gosh, that was amazing. Definitely, I feel like he did a little bit more last week. How many times did I say he threw it? 18. So 18 throws.
18.
7 or 8 or 9 quarterbacks played. Multiple.
I was just going to say 7 quarterbacks completed a pass today. 7 quarterbacks for the University of Michigan completed a pass. Their total stat line on the afternoon was 21 of 26 for 273 and a touchdown.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me that 21 of 26 was split up by 7 different quarterbacks. Now, a bulk of that came with JJ McCarthy, but that's just a wild statistic, man. It's again, you look up at the scoreboard and you see what it is, and there's no need to be concerned. But you look at some of these numbers, and it just makes you wonder: are they going to be ready for Big Ten play? I know they got Maryland coming up. That's essentially another warm up game. But look, we talked about UConn. That UConn was maybe the time where you start to, you put the pedal down on the gas. You try to figure out what you got. Now you got Maryland coming in. I don't think you have any more time because your next game is on the road in Kinnick. And so your starters probably got to go a full 4 quarters unless that thing gets out of control, really early. But I would assume that the next game against Maryland, you got to start to find out what you got in this team. And it's great spreading the ball around and doing all those things. But when push comes to shove, you're going to have your targets that you're comfortable with. And I hope Michigan gets that figured out sooner rather than later.
Well, JJ did play a little bit in the second half, but I think it's only because Cade McNamara got dinged up and didn't come out of the locker room. I don't think JJ would have seen the field again in the second half. Maybe, though, because they did have the starting O-line in there, too, and I think Blake Corum might have even been in a little bit in the third quarter. But however it would have played out, had Cade not gotten a little bit hurt, you still have 7 quarterbacks complete a pass. You have a bunch of receivers catching a pass or 2 passes. Ronnie Bell had another nice day. Nothing for Andrell Anthony. And, just 59-0. Just 59-0. Just the first time in program history they've scored 50 points in the first 3 weeks. I mean, something's working.
Something is working.
Teams that they play blow. And now, I'm going to shift down to the defense a little bit. Incredible on some fronts. Held UConn to just 110 yards total, only gave up 24 yards through the air, and obviously pitched the shutout, which they did not do in the first 2 weeks of the season, but no sacks. Again, so you saw 7 sacks in week 1, and now just 1 sack over the second and third games. And I mean, you lose all that production from Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo, and then week 1 they get 7 sacks as a team, and you're like, all right, no problem. They're good. They got dudes coming from all over the place. DBs getting sacks, linebackers, DL, D tackles. Everybody's getting in the mix, and now the last 2 weeks they haven't been able to get home. And again, it's partially due to what the offense is doing, but there were multiple times today where that freshman quarterback dropped back, climbed the pocket, extended the play a little bit, held on to it, and Michigan's still not getting home. But again, 110 yards of offense, no points. I think they're fine.
I mean, listen, they gave up 24 yards passing all
24.
afternoon. I mean, the completions for attempts for, and I don't know if UConn played multiple quarterbacks.
They did play 2 guys.
They were 5 of 20 through the air.
Yeah.
For 24 yards. And so when you look at that, it's like, okay, the Michigan secondary is doing its thing. They're getting pressure on the quarterback. Nothing was easy all day. I know he was able to extend some plays and make some things happen. They still only got 6 first downs on the afternoon. You're right. When you look at the numbers and you look at the end result on the scoreboard, it's hard to complain. But there are some things to keep an eye out on. One of those things is the offensive line, the rushing game. And then we've talked about it all leading up to the season that the wide receiver group was potentially the deepest in the country. Ronnie Bell's starting to come along. I think he had 5 or 6 receptions last week, 7 receptions today. You can start to see that's picking up. But, man, you definitely want to see 2 or 3 guys sort of get into that same type of rhythm for sure.
Yeah. Wanted to pull this up real quick because I actually have him highlighted as a part of this defense from Randall Doris.
Yes.
I am no longer calling Mikey Sainristil a former wide receiver play. That dude is a defensive player. It kind of makes me wonder, like, how freaking good he would be if he had been playing corner all 4 years he's been at Michigan, because he is there in coverage. He is getting hits on the quarterback. He is tackling people in space with authority.
Well, dude, and he's directing traffic out there on the deep. Like when he's down there and everybody's lining up, you can see Mike is shifting people around, telling people where to go. I have been so blown away by his comfort level on that side of the ball. And I know he played it in high school, but when you play 3 years of college ball at this level and then you switch back and you excel at that, you can't overstate just how good of a job he's done the first 3 weeks.
I'm saying it right now. He's playing in the NFL on defense. He is an NFL nickel corner, period. The way he comes up and hits, the way he's been in step with he's never been out of position. Again, he's got speed. He's got ball skills. He's going to play on Sundays on defense.
He's the real deal. He is the real deal.
I tweeted it a couple times during the game. I think you could make a very, very strong argument that he has been the best defensive player for this team through 3 games.
Certainly the most consistent. There's no question.
He was leading the team in tackles for about 3 quarters. Junior Colson ended up passing him up, but Sainristil finished with 3 tackles, 2 for solo, 2 all by himself in space. Like I said, 1 for loss, and he was hurrying the quarterback. I mean, the dude is all over the place. He's been in coverage. He hasn't been beaten. And like you said, leadership, captain, directing traffic. Incredible.
Everything you would want.
Never would have guessed it when we heard that he moved over to DB. And I think it's a shining light on that defense for sure. Mikey Sainristil still playing out of his mind.
That's the other thing. How about Makari Page today? Makari Page was out pretty much with the first team defense. Now, I don't know. Has that been the case the first 2 weeks? Because I haven't really noticed it, but Makari Page was pretty much out there all afternoon with the first team defense. I'd have to go back and look. But that's another guy that's just having a solid start to his year. Harbaugh was very complimentary of him, said he's been practicing well, and he's working his way into more reps on the field.
He's got 2 picks he probably wish he could try again for. He should have had both of them. They both would have been tough plays. Don't get me wrong. They weren't like, cans of corn out there, but he should have caught them. He would tell you that. Coach Clinkscale would tell you that. Harbaugh, I'm sure, would tell you that. But he's been really good as well. And then
let me ask you one question, because obviously coming off of week 2 and what happened against Hawaii, everybody was super, super high on one Mr. JJ McCarthy. Stats wise, he was efficient. 15 of 18, 214 yards, like you said, no touchdowns through the air. He did take the sack. I saw even on Twitter, maybe there was he should have handed it off, instead pulled it, tried to make a play. Second start for JJ McCarthy. How would you grade it?
I'm still giving it like an A-. I mean, it's a bad team. The third down keep on the zone read, he's just trying to make a play. He's trying to keep it and go make a play. It was the wrong play. He should have given it to Corum. Probably would have got the first down. And he was, dude, the second he came off the field, he's going like this. He knew it. That's me. I should have given it to you. I tried to do something, whatever. The sack that he took, it was third down, so it's not like the worst place to take a sack. It wasn't like you turn a second down, and manageable into a third and long. It was on third down. He's trying to extend the play. He did extend it, looking, and props to UConn for sticking with the coverage. Nobody came open. Chris, again, I know you wouldn't have seen this from your vantage point, but on the broadcast, they showed from the back end zone, there's nobody there. I mean, he's scanning, looking. He can throw it on the run with that one arm. And if somebody had come open, he would have done that, and they just didn't. So he takes us. I think it was a 7-yard loss. It was on third down. If he doesn't get the completion, they're punting it anyway. I guess maybe he could have thrown it away at the last second instead of taking an unnecessary hit and maybe fumbling the ball or whatever. But other than those two decisions, which both of them were kind of like you'd live with them, you'd like to see him maybe do something a little differently, but they weren't like horrible, brain malfunctions or anything like that. So I don't know. A-, B+. I mean, he still just had 3 incompletions. He still went over 200 yards. He wasn't asked to throw it to the end zone because they just kept giving it to Blake Corum. I mean, that's not on him that he didn't.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, is the lack of touchdowns through the air rushing. Yeah. What was your over-under set at? 4.5?
Yeah, I thought he would 3.5. I thought he would get 4.
So the fact that he ends the day with 0 doesn't concern you, given the fact that it was clear Michigan just wanted to hammer the ball in from where they were with Blake Corum or whoever the other running back was going to be at that point.
He was never off target with his throws to the end zone. He didn't overthrow guys. He didn't throw any in the dirt when they should have been on the chest in the end. I mean, he's not calling the plays.
Who did Indiana play today? We're getting a bunch of comments right now about Indiana winning.
Somebody not good, if I remember.
Well, correctly. Then who the hell cares? Why am I getting Indiana score updates?
Because they probably just barely won.
AJ Cooper, the art was actually nice and cool, man. We got the AC running in here, so it's
Western Kentucky. Indiana played.
Yeah, I don't know. Why are we getting Indiana updates?
I mean, they're no good. So anyway, and then last but not least, we talked offense, we've talked defense. How about the special teams today, dude?
How's about them?
Block punt from Caden Colsar, a punt return touchdown for AJ Henning. Only 2 punts from Brad Robbins, both of them more than 50 yards, and one of them down on about the 2.
I'll tell you what, the one that came in my direction, when that thing came off his foot, it looked like it was literally, I know this is cliche, it looked like it was shot out of a cannon, man. He got all of that ball. It was I can't remember which side. It was his first punt of the afternoon, but the guy's so solid, the guy's so consistent. It's weird because you never really want to see your punter play, but it's always nice to see Brad Robbins do well.
Only out there twice. It wasn't like he was out there a bunch, but he crushed it on both of them. Down real close to the goal line one time. And I know he missed the 62-yarder, but
boom.
If you're going to trot your boy out there and try a 62-yarder, you have immense confidence in him and that unit that it's not going to backfire. So I'll take that as like I know there's no such thing as moral victories, but I even though he missed it, I was like, all right. I mean, dude, you get across the 50, you're basically getting points with that.
I mean, get it out of your system, get a miss out of there, get that, that feeling in there. It's just like Harbaugh said, he's got to go out and punch his quarterbacks around. Maybe for a field goal kicker, it's okay to miss one if it's from 65 plus. So,
and Tommy Doman had a nice punt, and dude, he's got a leg on him too, man.
He does.
He looks like he could walk out there in a single-digit jersey, and you might think he was a wide receiver. The dude's a
man. He's got some length to him. He's got some height to him. He's got some athleticism to him.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. 59-0. Michigan's 3-0. Big Ten play starts next week. Another noon game against Maryland. The Wolverines will be favored big in that one. I guess the worst thing about today is you do have a few injuries to worry about now. Trevor Keegan finished the game in street clothes.
Yep.
Donovan Edwards did not dress. Mekhi Hill-Green did not dress. Carson Barnhart's still out, and now apparently Cade McNamara dealing with a little something. So,
and I know Zach Zinner played, but I will say he spent a considerable amount of time down on the field, kind of just hobbling around a little bit.
Okay.
And so I don't, that's something to keep your eye on. I don't know if it's a lingering thing. I don't know if he was just trying to work through something, but yeah, you're 3 games in now, you got some guys banged up, and if you're Michigan, that's what you want to try to avoid is anything catastrophic. And so far they've been able to do that. And I think that the guys will be able to heal up. I mean, again, we're not quite sure what the injury is with Donovan Edwards. He was in street clothes today. Not sure if it's going to be even necessary to have him back for Maryland, but I can tell you what, he didn't look like a guy who was too hurt when he was, he was tossing around the ball. He was hyping guys up like that guy. I don't think it's anything too serious. I think it's more just cautionary.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. They didn't show him a lot, but a couple, just auxiliary shots of the sidelines. He didn't look to be hobbled. I mean, he's jumping around. Yeah. He was real excited after, what play was that? Maybe the long run by, dude, he would have been like the 6th running back, number 37. Danny Hughes. Danny Hughes had a nice big run right by
Danny Hughes.
Big run down the Michigan sideline, switched the ball over to the other arm, trucking it out there, and Donovan Edwards was pretty pumped up about that. So, yeah, he didn't look like a guy who was real hurt, but, we'll see if he's back on the field next week against Maryland. That was kind of his coming out party last year. He had the big receiving game against Maryland.
Yeah, 177 yards, wasn't he? He set the record for a Michigan running back for receptions. Yeah, he's got that in there.
Yeah, just kind of across the board. Again, you're not going to be able to nitpick too much on a 59-0 win. But if there were 2 things, I'm doing my 3 up, 3 down article here in a little bit. And the only things that I have written down, Chris, and you'll tell me if this is crazy, was the O-line just not dominating. They were good, dude. Michigan had like 7 rushing touchdowns. It's weird to say like the O-line wasn't that good when you score on the ground that many times. And then it's the lack of sacks. The defense.
The lack of what? Excuse me? The lack of what?
Sacks.
Okay. The lack of sacks. Gotcha.
I hope that sounded
I thought there was a Freudian slip right there, man. I thought something else. We'll have to watch it on playback later, but we'll go with sacks. You got a sacks addiction?
The defense.
You addicted to sex?
Addicted to sacks? Sacks addiction?
The defense was lights out. 110 yards total given up and a shutout. And I'm
24 yards passing.
But they didn't have any sacks. Well, whatever. Last week we heard Braden McGregor say that it's not all about getting, actually getting a sack. It's pressuring the quarterback, moving him off of his spot, keeping him from doing this, keeping him from doing that. I don't know, man. We got to find something. I put up something earlier, I think it was at halftime saying like, Michigan was averaging like 4 yards a carry and no sacks at halftime. That's not exactly dominant in the physical areas of the game. And somebody put like a rain cloud like pouring over something. I'm like, look, you want me to say that everything is perfect and Michigan made 0 mistakes and they can't play any better?
It's going to be a real short show.
Well, somewhere else. I'm not doing that. But
so, Brandon, your take on the game was, well, they look good. They won by a lot, and we'll see you next week, everybody.
That's
how it works.
They won 59-0. They're 3-0, rolling easily. Here's the deal. If you went into any one of the coaches' offices and said, make a list of 5 things that you didn't love, they'd probably give you 10. Okay?
Guaranteed.
It's football, man.
There's always stuff to get better at.
Absolutely. Correct. And so I think to do our best job, it's about bringing some of those things up and trying to identify it and giving you something to talk about. So that's where we're at.
I saw one of the criticisms was, those guys can be really high on the team sometimes, but then they're also really low on the teteam. And I'm like, oh, okay, so we're objective.
So we just call it like it is. All right. That's pretty good, right?
Cool. Thanks for the compliment. Yeah. No, they're 3-0. They're kicking everybody's ass.
Yeah.
They look good for the most part, but there's things they need to work on. And I trust that they're going to work on them. I trust this team. Look, this is not the same situation as it was even going into 2021 where Harbaugh's on the hot seat. What does this team look like moving forward? They're coming off of a 2-4 year at that point. This program last year changed so much for this program that now the bar has been raised to the point where the expectation is 11 wins minimum. You go into Columbus undefeated. That's the expectation for this team now. And I think that just speaks volumes to the work the players have done, the work that the coaching staff has done. Give Jim Harbaugh a ton of credit. Sitting here 3-0, they look good. There's stuff to work on. But, man, they are, I think Joel Klatt said it not too long ago. It's looking like this thing is going to come down once again to Michigan, Ohio State. And this time It's in Columbus with McCarthy behind center, who's got a little bit of a history there with the Buckeyes. I'm excited for it, man.
So CJ Frazier just pointed out that Jim Harbaugh may have already said that Cade's going to miss some time.
Okay, let's see. Cade out a few weeks, Harbaugh
Jim
says.
Harbaugh, quote, Cade will probably be out for a few weeks.
Well, there you go. So all of the folks who, it just goes to show, man, like they thought Cade was going to be the guy that has to come in and save the day when JJ gets injured. And, Cade McNamara had a season-ending injury in 2020, and not a lot of people talk about that because it was just a shitty season. It was COVID season, and nobody talks about that. But he was in for maybe a quarter when he relieved Joe Milton before he had the collarbone issue that took him out for the remainder of the year. So I know Cade showed a lot of toughness last year, but this is one of those things, man. It can happen that quickly. And now, who's QB2? I think we saw it. I think it's Davis Warren is QB2.
Yeah, probably. I think not a lot of people know this either, but Cade McNamara also missed, believe it was his true freshman year, his entire true freshman season with a tore up knee.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to play, wasn't that big of a deal. But if you remember, he was a pretty highly touted recruit. So people, he broke all those records out in Nevada, and like getting him was he was down, he liked Notre Dame.
Not just breaking records in Nevada, isn't he Nevada's all-time leading record? Every single high school record in Nevada you can have as a quarterback, Cade McNamara owns that record.
Yeah, and
we call him the Desert Rattler.
I was in the press box and saw Cade was in the press box and not down on the sideline as a true freshman, and he was on crutches and he had pants on, but there was a noticeable large, whole leg brace on one of his legs, which it looked like they were kind of trying to hide under his pants, and the fact that he's up in the box, and I'm like,
yeah.
He was out the whole season. He redshirted that year, wasn't going to play, and certainly didn't play with the injury. But anyway, we're diving into this injury thing a little bit more than we probably need to. But yeah, he's out for a couple weeks now, and so you hope JJ can stay healthy, and if he can't, then you've got Davis Warren there, the walk-on. You've got Alex Orji, who has shown that he can be a big-time threat running the ball.
You've got Alan Bowman, who has a shit ton of experience.
Yeah, so there's some guys, they're not in bad shape there. But
correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't Alan Bowman the most experienced quarterback still on the roster in terms of seniority and time? And so there you got a guy who's basically a coach on the sideline, but can come in and be serviceable.
19 starts, I think, at Texas Tech.
Yeah,
something like that.
Did an amazing comeback game against Oklahoma. I think it was in Norman. I mean, he's got some things under his belt where he's been in there. I remember when we talked about Alan Bowman, the transfer, we were like, oh, well, Bowman, what's the deal with Bowman? Yeah. And, he's kind of been an afterthought now, but it just goes to show how deep that 7 quarterbacks completed a pass today. When the hell's the last time that happened at the University of Michigan? I'm not sure.
I doubt it ever has.
That might be a first.
Yeah, let's see. Andy Maddox, Brandon Mann, Davis Warren, multiple walk-ons completed passes today. That's, like Harbaugh said, man, he wanted to get 80, 90, 100 people in the game. He did. He did do that today. Be interesting to look at the snap count tomorrow. So,
dude, they almost asked me if I wanted to play. That's how bad it was getting out there. They're like, yo, Chris, you look like you can run for maybe a minute. You want to go out there and get a rep?
My Uncle Mike texted me and was like, so apparently Michigan has 8 quarterbacks. I'm like, I think they actually have 9, they said. He's like, well, it's going to be 10 if they grab Chris off the sideline. He actually texted me that.
And then you got Donovan Edwards down there who can sling the ball. I mean, dude, they got quarterbacks everywhere. Donovan Edwards could line up behind center and run dual threat, and they'd probably be just fine.
So there you have it. Michigan's 3-0, 59-0, taking on Maryland next week at noon. Your boy will be back out there, dude. If I'm not on a vent somewhere, I'm going to be back at the RV.
We're praying for your recovery. Praying for your recovery.
Getting ready to lock in for Big Ten play. So there you go, man. I mean, look, dude, even judging by the viewers right here, just kind of all right. One of the most ho-hum 59-0 wins I've ever seen.
Nah, not a lot happened, man.
There it is.
A lot did. Weird.
There it is. We'll be back on Monday night. Enjoy your NFL Sunday, guys.
And listen, if you are planning on coming back to the game, the Maryland game next weekend, come stop by the RV. We are going to have more Wolverine State Brewing Company beer out here. I believe we're actually going to have some food for this game, maybe some pulled pork sliders. And I believe the Winged Helmet private label beer will be available, ready to roll. They've already canned it. We're just waiting on the labels at this point. So everything is
that.
full steam ahead.
Look at that. All right, everybody. Have a good rest of your weekend. Don't be thieves of joy.
Don't be a thief of joy. Let people be happy.
Everybody.